I knew something was wrong the moment my son whispered, "Don't tell the neighbors you're my mother." He said it quickly, barely moving his lips, like he was afraid someone might hear, as if I were a secret, a blemish on the image he'd carefully constructed. I didn't ask why, I just smiled politely at the man in golf shorts, watering his perfect lawn, and waved like I was supposed to, like a visitor, a stranger. It had been a long flight from Oregon to Connecticut, 2 planes, and a bumpy taxi ride. I'd brought a small suitcase and a tin of my raspberry scones, the kind Daniel used to devour when he was a boy. I was stiff from the trip, my knees aching, but I didn't complain. I never have. Not when I worked double shifts at the clinic, not when I paid for his college, not when I signed the papers for the house. He now led me into like I was some casual acquaintance. "Take your shoes off here," he said. Carla just had the floors polished. I bent slowly, unzipping my walking shoes. The entryway gleamed, expensive tile, an abstract painting I didn't recognize, no place for my coat. I held it in my hands. Carla came in from the kitchen, wine glass in one hand, phone in the other. "Marianne, welcome," she said, her smile barely touching her eyes. "We weren't sure which flight you were on." "I texted yesterday," I said. She nodded, already turning back to the kitchen. "Well, we've got a full house this weekend. Neighborhood social tonight. Hope that's okay." Daniel took my coat wordlessly and hung it in a narrow closet. Not the hall closet. That was full of designer jackets and polished shoes, the kind you buy to match the life you want people to think you have. The living room was beautiful, I'll give them that. Neutral colors, sharp corners, everything curated like a magazine spread. Not a single picture of Daniel as a boy, not one photograph with me in it. On the fireplace mantel were 4 frames: Carla's parents in Rome, her sister in Manhattan, her kids from her first marriage. Not even the new baby had a photo with Daniel. Only posed shots, nothing warm. "Where should I put this?" I held up the tin of scones. "Oh, just leave it on the counter," Carla said, distracted. "We're doing gluten-free right now, but the kids might want some." The kids, 12 and 9, from Carla's previous marriage, Daniel's stepchildren, peeked in, muttered hellos, and ran upstairs. They didn't know me, had never spoken to me on the phone. My own granddaughter, the baby, was asleep in a sleek white bassinet that looked more like a gadget than a cry. "We'll show you to the guest room," Daniel said. "Not your room, not your home, just a place to sleep." He led me down the hallway, past a door with private office stenciled on it, like I was in some professional space. The guest room was clean, sparse, cold. No books, no chair, just a bed and a small suitcase stand, like a hotel. On the nightstand sat a card. "Welcome guests, Wi-Fi password, Thornhouse 1. Thornhouse. A joke. My last name was Cross. "I'll unpack later," I said, sitting on the bed's edge, my legs needing a break. Daniel hovered, then said, "Just try to be relaxed tonight. It's mostly Carla's circle, doctors, architects, that crowd." "Of course," I said, meaning, I understand I'm not supposed to say who I am, I'm just window dressing. He left, closing the door gently. I sat there looking at the blank walls, then opened my purse. The envelope was still there, the original deed. Daniel couldn't get a mortgage on his own. He'd needed me. My name was still on the ownership. Legally, this house was mine as much as his, more so. I'd paid the down payment in full, $240,000 from my savings, money I'd built over decades. He'd said it was just a formality, just help to start our family's future. I believed him, I always did. I pressed the envelope flat, ran my hand over it, pulled out the document slowly, took a photo, then slid it back and zipped the purse closed. Tomorrow, I'd go for a walk to clear my head, find someone to help me remember how ownership really works. The next morning, the house was alive before I reached the kitchen. Carla was blending fruit and yogurt. Daniel stood by the fridge, scrolling his phone. Neither looked up. "Morning," I said, not too loud, not too soft. "Morning," Daniel replied, eyes on the screen. I poured coffee from a sleek machine that looked like it needed a license to operate. It was thin, bitter, but I didn't complain. I sat at the breakfast bar and watched. "We're heading out soon," Carla said without turning. Farmer's market, then the park with the kids. Sounds nice, I replied. Maybe I'll take a walk, stretch my legs. Daniel looked up. You're sure you're okay with that? It's a pretty upscale area. Just don't talk to anyone too long, okay? I tilted my head. Why would I? No reason, he said quickly. Just people here can be particular. I nodded, pretending not to notice Carlo's sharp glance, like he'd said too much. After they left, I stood in the silent kitchen. The counters gleamed, the fridge hummed, the baby monitor blinked. I'd never been here before, never invited. When Daniel bought the house a year ago, I was recovering from a fall. After that, he always had reasons. Too busy, Carla wasn't feeling well, the house wasn't ready. Now that I was here, I saw what ready meant. Perfect, pristine, controlled. No room for me. In the hallway, I stopped at black and white photos, architectural shots, bridges, skylines, but no family, not even the baby. I opened the laundry room door. Inside, stacked appliances buzzed. Next to them, a cabinet. Unlocked. I found a beige folder, one I recognized from when he begged me to co-sign. There it was, the closing summary, mortgage documents, my name in full, Marianne Cross. Below it, his in smaller font.
The second party, I slid it back. I wasn't looking for confirmation. I had it, but I needed to see it again, to know I wasn't imagining this. Later, Carla returned with heirloom tomatoes and artisanal bread. We're having bruschetta for dinner, she announced, like it was a gala invitation. Sounds lovely, I said. Need help? She paused, confused. Oh no, it's all under control. I watched her slice tomatoes with surgical precision, every move deliberate. Everything in this house was curated, measured, approved. After dinner, they invited a couple over, James and Lydia Duval. He worked in finance. She was on a community board. They brought wine, complimented the marble cup. This is Marianne, Carla said, smiling. Daniel's family friend. Family friend? It stung like a needle under the ribs, but I didn't flinch. I offered Lydia wine. Let the words settle like wallpaper glue. So nice to meet you, Lydia said. You're staying long? Just a few days, I replied. It's nice to visit places you've invested in. Her brows lifted. Oh, are you in real estate? You could say that, I said. I helped acquire this property. Daniel coughed. Carla's hand stilled. Lydia laughed, unsure if I was joking. That night, I sat on the guest bed, the deed photo open on my phone. I stared at my name, not because I forgot it, but because I needed it like armor. I remembered Daniel's desperate call. This is the one, Mom. It's perfect. We just need help with the down payment. It's only on paper, just until I refinance. I said yes without hesitation. I sold bonds I'd saved since my husband passed, took a tax hit, told myself it was worth it for the next generation. But now, hearing my son laugh downstairs with people who thought I was a friend, I realized I hadn't built anything. I'd rented love on a short lease. The next morning, Carla greeted me with a schedule. Soccer for Nathan, a baby sensory class. Relax, she said, meaning stay out of the way. Daniel added, there's food in the fridge, help yourself, as if I hadn't cooked every meal of his childhood from scratch. I nodded. They left in a flurry of baby bags and strollers. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. I opened the fridge, green juices, calorie-labeled containers, protein bars. Nothing warm, nothing familiar. I closed it, sat on the sofa, picked up a glossy magazine, flipped 3 pages, set it down. That's when I noticed a gallery wall near the staircase, 6 framed photos. Carla's parents on a sailboat, her kids at a beach, the baby in a sepia-toned shoot. No Daniel, no me. Nothing to suggest he'd had a life before this. Upstairs, I paused at Daniel's office. The door creaked open, a clean desk, 2 monitors, a Wharton diploma, awards for insurance sales, no personal photos, but in the corner, a small wooden box I'd given him after his father died. I opened it, a tiny photo of Daniel as a child, grinning with a missing tooth, and a folded note in my handwriting. Never forget who you are and who stood with you when no one else did. Mom, he'd kept it. Tears stung. I closed the box, placed it back, went downstairs, and stepped into the backyard. The grass was clipped too short, the patio furniture too white, a sandbox untouched, still wrapped in plastic. They were building a life without the mess of children, the softness of memory, the reality of family. Daniel stepped out. Beautiful yard, I said. He looked around, like he hadn't noticed. Yeah, I guess. We stood in silence. Then I said, I saw the pictures inside. He rubbed his neck. Carla has a certain style. It's efficient. He hesitated. It's not that we don't appreciate everything you've done. You've been generous, always. But this house, we've worked hard for this. It's part of a certain life, you understand. I turned to him. You mean the kind of life where people don't have mothers who wear old cardigans and bake scones? That's not fair. No, I agreed. It's not. He looked away, over the empty sandbox. Carla's parents are coming next week. We're throwing a brunch, more her family's style. I waited. I just think it's best if you don't mention the deed. I hadn't planned to, I said. He turned back. Really? Of course. I wouldn't want to ruin the illusion. There was a pause, long and empty. Then he said it, the sentence that landed like a stone. You know how people judge. You wouldn't want anyone thinking I didn't earn this house. I looked at my son, grown, polished, polite, unaware of the weight of his words. I never wanted credit, Daniel, I said quietly. I wanted connection. He shifted uncomfortably. It's just complicated. No, I said. It's very simple. I went back inside, leaving him on the patio in his perfect yard. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the guest bed, hands folded, staring at the ceiling. I heard the dishwasher hum, pipes creak, wind rustle against expensive glass. I thought of my mother, who never had money but gave me everything, her voice, her strength, her insistence that people deserved to be seen, not hidden. In that quiet house, I decided I wouldn't be hidden anymore. They dressed me up like a problem to be solved. Carla came into the guest room just after 5, holding a pale cardigan and faux pearls. I thought you might want to wear something lighter, she said, like a suggestion, but it wasn't. I looked at the beige sweater, the kind that disappears. I brought my navy dress, I said. She smiled tightly. It's just, tonight's crowd is formal. You'll feel more comfortable in this. I took it without argument. Let her think she was winning. Downstairs, the dining table was extended, glasses sparkled, napkins folded like swans. The house smelled of rosemary and citrus knot, a single dish homemade, all catered, precise. Daniel emerged in a dusty button-down, kissed Carla's cheek. Everything looks perfect, he murmured. She beamed, then turned to me. Just one little thing. When people ask, say you're an old family friend from Oregon. Not that we're ashamed. It's just simpler. I stared. Simpler. You know, Daniel chimed in. Carla's family has a dynamic with appearances. This neighborhood is curated. People make assumptions. And what would they assume? I asked. That your mother flew across the country to crash your party. He laughed shortly. Don't be like that, Mom. The doorbell rang. Carla smoothed her hair. Showtime. Neighbors trickled in, men in pastel sweaters, women in tasteful heels, all with glossy smiles. They brought artisanal candles, wine from local vineyards, compliments about countertops. Who's this lovely lady? A woman asked, gesturing to me. Carla stepped in. This is Marianne, a longtime family friend. She knew Daniel when he was little. How sweet, the woman said. You're practically an aunt. Aunt Mary, Carla said, laughing. I nodded, smiled, sipped wine I didn't like, listened to talk of gym memberships, school districts, boat clubs. Daniel moved among them like a trained host, Carla watching like a coach. I was a prop in their stage play. I excused myself to the bathroom, stopped by the kitchen to refill my glass. Daniel followed. You're doing great, he said quietly. Thanks for playing along. Is that what I'm doing? I asked. Playing, he ran a hand through his hair. I know it's weird, but you know how important this is to Carla. Reputation means something in her world. And what about your world, Daniel? He hesitated. This is my world now. I nodded, understood. When I returned, they were talking house values, how properties had appreciated. This house, Carla said brightly, we got it at just the right moment, before the area spiked. Smart move, a guest agreed. Daniel said nothing about who made the purchase possible, who paid the down payment, who co-signed. It didn't fit their narrative. I wasn't part of their story. Later, dessert was served, tiny lemon tarts in fragile glass cups. I caught Daniel's eye across the table. For a second, he looked like a boy again, nervous, waiting to see if I'd embarrass him. I held his gaze, smiled, not kindly, not unkindly, just enough to remind him I wasn't forgotten. I was quiet, not erased. When the guests left, One man patted Daniel's shoulder. "Lovely evening, and what a charming aunt you have. So gracious." "Thanks, Daniel," said Chiaz. I went upstairs before he could say more, slipped out of the cardigan, took off the pearls. In my nightgown, I opened my phone, looked at the deed photo, my name, his name, the value. I stared, then clicked share, sent it to my lawyer's private email, no message, just insurance. The house was dark but not quiet, plumbing sighed. The fridge clicked, a motion sensor blinked. I lay on the guest bed, hands folded, staring at the ceiling fan's shadow, a slow pendulum. I couldn't sleep, not from pain. My feet, back, jaw ached from standing, sitting straight, smiling too much, but from a quiet realization. Something inside me had shifted. I remembered when Daniel was small, sleeping curled against me on the couch, running to the door when I came home from work, arms outstretched, face lit up, no swans folded from napkins then. No reputation to protect, just us, in a small apartment with secondhand furniture, eating dinner on the floor because we didn't have a table. He was proud of me, telling cashiers, neighbors, the school secretary, "That's my mom, she's a nurse, she helps people." Now I was a family friend, an aunt, a liability. I turned to my side, trying not to make the bed creak. Outside, a wind picked up, hedges swaying under moonlight. A motion-triggered floodlight glowed. I saw a small plaque by the lawn, "The Thorne Residence," engraved in brushed metal. Not even his full last name, just Thorne, shorter, crisper, easier for cocktail conversations. Almost funny. I reached for the nightstand's notepad and pen, wrote in steady letters, "It's not bitterness, it's math." I drew a line down the page. On one side, money sent, years worked, hours given, meals made, papers signed. On the other, phone calls received, invitations offered, thanks spoken. The left was full, the right had nothing but air. I folded the page, tucked it into my wallet, turned off the lamp. I thought about the conversation we hadn't had, where Daniel might say, "I'm sorry, I forgot where I came from." But that wouldn't happen. He wasn't cruel, he'd just grown comfortable, accepting my sacrifices without questioning their cost. Not thanking, not remembering. I'd allowed it, believing lopsided love was enough. But I was tired now, in my bones and deeper, where I'd carried hope too long without rest. I'd given him this house, watched him host his new life in it, heard the omissions, the revised introductions, the edits to history. I'd smiled through it, but now I was awake, fully awake, and I couldn't unsee it. I stood, opened my suitcase, took out the envelope, unfolded the deed. October 17th, the day we closed, the day I wired the money, the day I bought him a future he didn't want to share. Then I noticed a clause: no changes in ownership, refinancing, or sale without my written consent. Marianne Cross. He couldn't sell this house without my approval. I felt calm, not vindictive, just clear. There'd be no shouting, no dramages, the slow turning of the wheel back into my hands. It was still my house, and he'd forgotten what that meant by morning. I'd made a quiet, final decision, like a door closing with a soft click. The house was empty. Daniel and Carla at a music development session, the kids at school. I stood in the kitchen, in my robe, drinking cardboard tasting coffee, planning my steps. First, confirm the document. I'd seen the beige folder in the laundry room cabinet. I walked there, not sneaking, just moving like I belonged, because I did. The dryer was quiet. I opened the cabinet, reached for the folder, the original deed, signed, notarized, my name first, his second. My signature in ink from a pen I'd bought in Salem, the kind you don't throw away. I placed the folder on the counter, took a clear photo, emailed it to my lawyer's private inbox, subject, reference, no message needed. I returned the folder exactly where I found it, not hiding, just deliberate. Next, make space. I packed a tote bag, wallet, keys, phone charger, glasses, one change of clothes. The rest stayed in the closet, undisturbed. The suitcase sat by the wall. The bed remained made. I wasn't running. I was moving with intention. I made a sandwich with their cold roast chicken, ate standing, looking at the streets, identical mailboxes. At noon, the door opened. Carla's voice carried, "Let's put her down for a nap before she explodes." They were back. I met them in the hallway as Daniel set down the baby's car seat. "Would you mind if I had a little time here on my own?" I asked. "Just a day or two. You've been so generous. I thought I'd stay and enjoy the quiet after you go to that resort thing." Carla looked at Daniel. He blinked. You mean while we're at the water park? It's just the weekend, Mom. Exactly, I said. I'll clean up, no trouble. Carla's smile was rehearsed. Of course, that'd be lovely. It's just, we hadn't planned to leave the baby with you. Oh, heavens no, I said lightly. You'll all go. I'll have the house to myself, a little retreat. I could use the rest. Daniel nodded slowly. Well, sure, that works. I could feel him calculating the baby monitor, the alarm, the possibility I'd do something needing explanation to Carla's parents. But he smiled. You deserve a break, after all you've done for us. Funny, the first time he'd said anything close to that since I arrived. They left the next morning in a rush of bags, sunscreen, and instructions about garbage days and thermostats. Carla kissed the baby 3 times. Daniel said, "Come on, we'll miss the check-in window." I stood in the doorway, waving, holding the key fob like a trusted guest. Then I closed the door, locked it, leaned against the smooth paint. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of truth returning to the walls. I sat in the armchair I hadn't dared touch, kicked off my shoes, stretched my legs. This wasn't revenge, not an outburst, this was restoration. In the afternoon, I arranged a courier to deliver a deed copy to a law office 2 towns over. I didn't call Daniel, didn't warn him, didn't feel cruel, I felt clean. At sunset, I made tea, with leaves in a cracked ceramic mug I found pushed to the back of the cupboard. I sat on the patio as the sky turned gold, listened to sprinklers hum in unison down the street. Tomorrow, I'd call my lawyer. Tonight, I'd enjoy the home I'd paid for, where I wasn't a guest. The sun rose without asking permission. I was awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a monogrammed notepad and pen from Carla's drawer. Outside, a uniformed man trimmed hedges, a truck idling. I made real coffee, slow-dripped, dark, rich, like I'd always made when I ran on less sleep and more necessity. At 9:01, I dialed Helen Stafford, attorney at law. Marianne Cross, I said calmly. She hesitated. It's been, 3 years. Still in Oregon. Actually, I'm in Connecticut, visiting family, temporarily. How can I help? I glanced at a photo on the fridge. Daniel cropped tightly between Carla and a stepkid, not smiling. I'd like to initiate a reassessment of property control regarding a home I own. I laid it out. I'd funded the house, held majority equity, Daniel's name listed only for mortgage eligibility. I retained controlling interest. You never transferred ownership, she asked. No, and you have the deed. I sent it last night. Subject line, reference. She paused. That simplifies things. What do you want, Marianne? I want the house legally reassigned under my sole name. Full authority, unambiguous, final. I don't intend to sell, but I intend to make changes. Anticipate resistance. I sipped my coffee. He doesn't know yet. But yes. Helen didn't ask why. She'd met Daniel once, sized him up in 10 minutes. You're the majority deed holder. We have leverage. I'll prepare a transfer declaration. Once you sign, we initiate reassignment. If he challenges, it's a civil matter, but we'll win. Quiet as dignity allows, I said. Understood. I'll email a draft this afternoon. We hung up. I sat in silence, staring at the curated living room, expensive furniture, lemon cleanser scent. None of it mattered. At noon, I opened Daniel's desk drawer, not snooping, securing what I'd earned. Beneath magazines I found spare keys, garage, office, fireproof box. I used the garage key, examined boxes, Christmas, baby gear, old tech. One bin said Mom Miss, dusty. Inside, framed, photos of Daniel and me, his high school graduation, a beach trip when he was 9, the best day, a recipe card in my handwriting, an unopened birthday card I'd sent. I closed the lid, left it on the workbench. In the fireproof box, I found documents, insurance, medical, Carla's estate folder, her trust, her legacy plan. No mention of me. I poured another coffee, looked at the backyard, thought about the versions of myself in Daniel's mind. The one who cooked, worked, bent to his needs, the one who signed checks, the one who stayed quiet. Now he'd meet the one who remembered what she owned. That evening, Helen's draft arrived clean, precise, a quiet assertion of what was mine. I signed digitally, sent it back. Helen's message, once filed he'll receive notice, but you can tell him yourself until Tuesday. I closed the laptop, turned off the light, let him have 2 more days of his illusion, sipping wine at an overpriced hotel, Thinking he'd built a perfect life, I'd wait, then knock on the door of the life he'd excluded me from, not as a guest, but as the owner. Sometimes silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. The day before their water park trip, I found the moment. In the kitchen, Carla arranged snacks: gluten-free pretzels, carrot sticks, dried mango. Daniel folded towels into a beach bag. Everything moved fast. Their minds were on vacation. I was thinking, I said casually, if you're comfortable, I'd love to stay this weekend while you're away. Carla looked up, hand over grapes. Oh, just for rest, I said. The house is peaceful without the running around. I don't get quiet like this often. Daniel glanced at Carla. You mean stay while we're gone? Yes, I said, folding my hands. You're kind to let me stay. I wouldn't mind solitude before heading home. Carla cleared her throat. It's just the alarm system. I won't touch it. I'll leave the back door lights on, water the plants, keep everything locked, no trouble. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. It's not personal. No, of course not, I said gently. It's never personal. That landed. He flinched. Carla said, if it's just a couple days, and you're comfortable, I am. I nodded. I'd feel better knowing someone's here. Houses don't like being left alone. A phrase my husband used to say about a cabin we rented. Daniel looked at me, something shifting in his expression, then gone. He pulled out a keyring. Everything's labeled garage, back door, mailbox. I took them, slipped them into my purse. Thank you, sweetheart, I said, meaning it not the way he thought. They left before sunrise, Carla triple-checking the fridge, kissing the baby 3 times. Daniel carried suitcases. I stood on the porch, shawl-wrapped, holding my travel mug. Text if anything comes up, Daniel said. Don't let the alarm beep too long. I'll manage. Carla's tight smile. Thanks for staying. It's a relief. I smiled back. Enjoy the water. You deserve a break. Daniel kissed my cheek, a formality. Their taillights faded into the mist. I didn't wave. I locked the door, walked room by room, observing. A beautiful space, designed for others' approval. In the guest bathroom, a drawer held lotions, unopened toothpaste, like a hotel. Carla probably refilled it, hoping someone would be impressed. Upstairs, a scuff on the wall would schedule a painter. I smiled. In the garage, I retrieved the mom box, set it on the kitchen table, lined up the photos. Daniel at 15, arm around me at an award night. Us at the coast, wind in our faces. My apple cake recipe card, evidence in a quiet courtroom. I left them there. In Daniel's study, I opened the laptop, used the password he'd shown Macarla 1984 on the county's property portal. I typed the address, Marianne Cross, primary, Daniel Cross, secondary. Still true, still mine. I left the page open, sat back in his chair. They were gone, not disappeared. They'd returned, but in that moment, fully gone. The garage door's echo felt like a chapter's final line. I hadn't written but now claimed. I stood barefoot on the kitchen tiles, keys warm in my palm. The morning light poured through wide windows, a hollow brightness. No voices, no monitors, no toys. I'd never heard this house quiet before. It wasn't sound but noise pretending, performance, being tolerated. Now it was just a structure: wood, stone, glass - mine. I took a chipped ceramic mug from the pantry, forgotten in the back, filled it with hot water, added strong black tea from my suitcase. Carla's infused herbs tasted like vapor, like fashion. I sat on the patio, white chairs too stiff, but the view: pleasant green lawn, tall hedges, identical houses. My shoulders dropped, comfort returned when performance left. I listened: birds, neighbors' chimes, cooling patio stones. I thought of Daniel speeding down the freeway, baby gurgling, Carla checking the itinerary. He'd nod, agree, adapt, blend into whatever shape his life required. It served him in business, in erasing me, but not completely. He hadn't asked me to sign away the deed. Assumed I'd forgotten. His mistake, thinking love was surrender. It never was. Love gives but remembers. That evening, I cooked real food: biscuits from memory, roasted chicken with thyme and lemon, a salad with too much vinegar, the way I like it. I set the table for one, used the good dishes Carla saved for company. I counted. I poured cheap red wine, not the guest bottle. It tasted like effort. I ate slowly, silverware on porcelain, my breath calm. In the baby's nursery, I sat in the new rocking chair, barely used, silent. When Daniel was born, my wooden rocker groaned with every move. He fell asleep to that rhythm-grown creak, rock, creak. I could hear it still. The shelf held new books, no folded corners, no smudges, just display. In my room, I packed for 2 more days, left the rest in the closet. No hurry. The deed transfer was initiated. My lawyer would notify Daniel. I wasn't moving, wasn't hiding, I was home. I ended the night on the couch with a blanket and a crossword. The kind my husband and I did together, arguing over clues. I whispered as I wrote, 4 letters, to an answer. Hold. The pen felt good, the lights dimmed on a timer, but I stayed, not asleep, just still. It was enough. The next morning, I dressed with purpose slacks, pressed shirt, polished church shoes for rooms where decisions are made. I ate slowly, toast butter, 1 soft-boiled egg. At 10, the doorbell rang. A woman in a dark blazer, tidy hair, soft eyes, Marianne Cross. Yes, I'm Leela Ross, Stafford and Patel. She stepped inside, carrying a slim leather folder and tablet, fitting the silence. We sat at the dining table, cleared of Carla's candles and Architectural Digest. She opened the folder. This is a reassignment packet, pre-filled based on the deed and equity documents. You're the primary grantor and funding party. We need your signature to initiate filing. I nodded. She slid the tablet over. Electronic is fastest. We'll handle physical originals. I signed each page. She tapped buttons. Done. Title: Reassignment is in progress. Confirmation by Friday. Physical copy mailed to your address of choice. I'll give you that before you go, I said. I'm not staying here. She nodded. For what it's worth, you're not the first mother I've met in this situation. I raised an eyebrow. We handle quiet reversals. Mothers, aunts, grandparents, who give everything and are asked to disappear. I didn't respond. She handed me an envelope. This is a summary packet if you choose to speak with Mr. Cross. I walked her to the door. She smiled, stepped into the sunlight, vanished like a ripple. I sat at the table, envelope in hand. The house was still, then, like instinct. I went to the study, took a pen, wrote, Daniel, you asked me not to tell the neighbors I was your mother, so I didn't. You asked me not to talk about the house, so I didn't. You didn't ask me to sign it away, so I didn't. You asked me to help build a life, so I did. I won't take more than what's mine. I won't ask for thanks, but I won't disappear. Love, Mom. I folded it, placed it under his Wharton certificate, the summary packet on top, angled neatly. The house didn't feel different, but I did. That afternoon, I opened all doors front back. Garage let air move through. I sat outside, watched the wind sweep the hedges, listened to the gate creak. Life returning. Neighbors wouldn't notice, but everything had changed. Tonight, I'd sleep in the master bedroom. I had the keys, the name, I'd earned it. The filing processed Wednesday at 9:43 a.m. A notification arrived. A scanned reassigned title deed. My name singularly under legal owner. Helen's email. It's done. I sat at the kitchen table, letting the words settle, not in triumph, not anger, just balance. Outside, a gardener trimmed hedges, methodical. Inside, silence was complete. I made tea, took the mug to the patio, sat in the same chair. The house stood behind me, a shell I'd cracked open, and stepped inside. Later, I opened the envelope, heavy paper, embossed seal, real to other people. I slipped it into my suitcase, then cleaned with purpose-washed guest sheets, wiped counters, folded their laundry, not for their return, but because I was leaving. I'd done what needed doing, turned the page. I didn't need to live here to prove it was mine. I needed to know it. At noon, I reread my note to Daniel, unchanged, no edits. At 2, I reserved a car service for the next morning, early, before their return, before explanations became theater. That evening, I made stew beef, carrots, potatoes, onions, the way Daniel liked it as a child. I ate alone, no music, just memory, hunger, peace. I packed, took only what I came with, left the note, the deed folder, the beach photo framed, on the hallway console for all to see. At midnight, I stood at the front door, lights off, looking at the quiet street. The Thorne residence plaque glowed. I didn't need to change it. Let Daniel keep his illusion. When he saw my name, alone, undeniable, he'd understand. This wasn't a threat, wasn't revenge, it was the return of what was mine. No permission needed. They returned Sunday. Carla stepped in first, voice elevated over the baby's whimpering. Can you get the diaper bag and cooler? It's got the breast milk. Daniel followed, dragging a suitcase, keys in hand. Mom, we're back. No answer. Carla frowned. Maybe she's asleep. Daniel checked the guest room. Empty bed made, towels, folded, the closet, empty hangers. In the kitchen, Carla glanced around. She didn't text or leave a note. Daniel muttered, checking his phone. No calls, no messages. He turned, saw the hallway console, froze. The beach photo, him and his mother, wind lifting his hair, her hand on his back. Carla, come here. She appeared. What? He pointed. That wasn't there before. She studied it. Did she put that out? He didn't answer. Walked to the office, heart thudding. Something was off. Arranged. He found the note under his degree, read it in silence. Carla stood in the doorway. What is it? He picked up the summary packet. The Dita's name gone, only hers. Wait, what the hell is this? Carla stepped forward, scanned it. No, that's not this. Can't be legal. It is, he said softly. She never signed it over. She was always the owner. Carla's mouth opened, closed. She paid for it, he said. The down payment, the equity. She signed to get it through underwriting. And now what? Carla's voice rose. She just takes it back. He shook his head. She's reminding us. They stood in silence, the baby monitor clicking, a quiet wail upstairs. Carla stormed toward the staircase. You better fix this. Daniel sat, note in hand, reading it again. He tried to be angry, betrayed, but felt something else. His mother's hand on his back at that beach, her voice telling bedtime stories, a bowl of stew after a hard day. She hadn't shouted, begged, stormed. She'd reminded him of the truth. He folded the note, picked up the phone, didn't dial. Not yet. Daniel didn't sleep that night, lying beside Carla's forceful silence. The baby monitor hissed. His house was still. Or maybe it wasn't his. The paper didn't lie, her name alone. Seal embossed. Folder heavy. At 2 a.m., he went downstairs. The hallway light was on. He passed the beach photo, stopped, a disposable camera, sand on his feet, her in a hoodie over scrubs, smiling after a shift. He'd forgotten the feeling. In the kitchen, he poured water, leaned against the sink. She'd stayed 2 days, cooked, cleaned, sat on the patio, listening to birds, watching hedges. Her presence was everywhere, not loud, undeniable. In the office, he opened the folder again. His name wasn't there, not even in footnotes. He'd let her fade, told Carla it was temporary, told himself it was cleaner. He'd called her late at night, voice low, just for now, to get it through escrow. She'd said yes before he finished, like always. Now she'd reminded him that yes bought. He couldn't resent her. He hadn't earned this alone. He wanted to call, apologize, but what could he say? Sorry, I asked you to shrink so I could grow. Sorry, I borrowed your strength, then painted over it. At 3 a.m., he went outside. The lawn was damp, air thick. The Thorne residence plaque caught the porch light. She hadn't taken it down. That broke him a little. He sat on the step until the sky shifted to navy, birds singing tentatively. He wasn't sure what kind of man that made him, but he knew what kind of woman she was, and now, so did everyone else. I didn't go back to the house not because I was afraid or unwelcome, but because it wasn't about the house anymore. I'd made my point, reminded him. A week after the filing, I sat in a Salem, Oregon office, same notary, same pen as 2 years ago. Name of the beneficiary, the notary asked. I smiled. Emily, she's 6. He paused. A granddaughter. I nodded. She won't manage the property until I know. I interrupted. It'll go into a trust, full transfer on her birthday or earlier with court petition. He filled out the rest. I left with the digital receipt, no ceremony. I took the bus home. 3 days later, Daniel called. I let it ring once. Hi Mom, he said, quiet, hesitant. I got the documents, the full reassignment. It's real. Yes, I said. A long silence. You could have talked to me first. I tried, I said. Years ago. He exhaled. I didn't think you'd do it. I didn't think I had to, I replied, until I did. He didn't argue. I heard the house babies gurgle, microwave beeping, dog barking. Then, softer. You left the photo out. Yes, and the note. I did. He paused. Thank you for not embarrassing me. I smiled, though he couldn't see. Oh Daniel, I didn't do this to embarrass you. I did it to remind you. A quiet beat. Emily's in school now, he said suddenly. 1st grade, top of her reading group. I know, I said. She sent me a drawing. He was quiet. Then, with effort, what happens to the house now? I let the pause linger. It goes into a trust for Emily. I've signed it over. She inherit when she's old enough. Another silence, longer. That's fair, he said finally. More than fair. Yes, I said, it is. We didn't say much after. Later that week, a package arrived. No note, just the beach photo frame from the hallway console. I placed it on my shelf, next to my husband's uniform photo, Emily's ceramic handprint. A few weeks later, Emily called. Grandma, yes, love. Daddy says you gave me a house. I laughed. Not yet, but one day, if you want it, she thought. Will it still have the big bathtub? If your parents don't change it? Yes. Can I paint my room pink? Anything you want. She giggled. Then seriously, will you live there with me? No, sweetheart, I said gently, but I'll be nearby. Promise, promise, I promise. She paused. You're not mad at Daddy anymore. No, I said, and meant it. Not anymore. It wasn't about anger, it was about memory, dignity, putting my name back where it belonged, ensuring the next generation knew where things came from. The days grew quieter, not emptier. I tended my garden, walked to the post office, baked, sent letters. Emily wrote back, crooked bold letters, drawings in the margins. Once, she sent a pink crayon picture of the house, stick figures outside. This is me, she wrote over the girl in the window. This is my house. Below, smaller, Grandma's house too. I kept it on my fridge. Daniel didn't visit but called on birthdays, holidays, sometimes to check in. He never mentioned the deed. Neither did I. It wasn't about winning, it was about not vanishing. Carla never called. That was fine, we'd said enough. The house stood, a little quieter, more honest. Daniel stopped calling it the Thorne residence. The plaque disappeared from the lawn. No announcement, just gone. Emily asked about it, and Daniel said, we don't need it anymore. I liked that. One spring afternoon, I sat on my porch, blanket over my knees, watching petals drift down the sidewalk. The sun was warm, not demanding, just there, like I was. If someone asked how a mother could fly across the country and leave with more than she arrived with, I'd say, sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes love has teeth. Sometimes the quietest woman in the room owns the floorboards under everyone's feet. And sometimes the house remembers who built it. If this story touched your heart, let it inspire you to honor those who've stood by you. Share it with someone who needs to remember their worth, or someone quiet who still has a voice. And if you felt the power in these words, please subscribe. It means the world to keep sharing stories that remind us all to stay connected, to stay true.